All right, and we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to now talk about how it just was not a good year for the top highest paid QBs in the NFL. If you want to look at the top five, nobody's winning a playoff game this year. The only quarterback out of the top five that made the playoffs was Jordan Love, and he, of course, got knocked out on Sunday against the Eagles. But the top five is Dak Prescott, who is making $60 million a year. Joe Burrow is making $55 million a year. Jordan Love is also making $55 million a year. Trevor Lawrence is also making $55 million a year. And Tua Tagovailoa is making $53.1 million. Now, out of these quarterbacks, the quarterback that had the best year was Joe Burrow. And he missed the playoffs. Now, it's not all Burrow's fault. We know this. A lot of that had to do with the defense. Now, he also had turnovers in, big moments in certain games that kind of decided the outcome. Like, against the Chiefs, like, we could talk about that pass interference call, but he also fumbled the ball that led to a defensive touchdown by the Chiefs. So that was costly. It's just, that's how slim the margin of error was for the Bengals this year. But, again, if we look at the Bengals season, the reason they didn't make the playoffs was because of that defense. Burrow was good from start to finish. I mean, I guess, the Patriots game wasn't good, but pretty much the whole year he was great. But for the other guys, I mean, Dak Prescott, was not playing the best before he got hurt because he ended up missing, a large chunk of the year due to the hamstring injury that he suffered. He had 11 touchdowns to 8 picks before he got hurt, barely under 2,000 yards passing. Then you had Jordan Love, who just got eliminated from the playoffs. Trevor Lawrence, he finished the year hurt. He got banged up this year. Tua with the concussions, and then he missed, the last couple of games with a hip injury, and the Dolphins ended up missing the playoffs. It was not a great year. The injuries. And Jordan Love was also hurt. The only quarterback that really was not hurt out of these five is Joe Burrow. But, at times we would see him flexing his wrist, because still feeling that injury. Still trying to get over it. But, I mean, he had an incredible year. So he's fine. And next year he's going to be even better, you would imagine, being another year removed. So 4 out of the 5 guys spent some time on the sidelines, missing games, and only 1 out of the 5 made the playoffs. Now, I'm not trying to sit here and say, well, you shouldn't pay your quarterback, but it's just, it does kind of put into perspective, though, how it is getting a little crazy, the amount of money that quarterbacks are making. Because you look at Patrick Mahomes and his contract, he's making $45 million a year. Dak Prescott's making $60 million a year. And total guaranteed money for Dak Prescott is $231 million. And Patrick Mahomes, it's only $141. It's almost $100 million less in total guaranteed money. And, you see Kirk Cousins is making more money than Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson per year. Deshaun's making $46 million. Kyler Murray's making $46.1 million. His guaranteed money is more than Mahomes. But, you have Jalen Hurts, you got Lamar Jackson. Those 2 guys are still in the playoffs. Jalen Hurts is making $51 million a year. Lamar's making $52 million per year. And, I mean, if you go down to the top 7, so you would add Jared Goff and Justin Herbert to the conversation. Now, Jared Goff is still in the playoffs. Justin Herbert got knocked out. So hopefully Jared Goff, could keep it going. At least in the top 7, you got one of the QBs still in it. But, yeah, it's just been a disappointment for the highest paid QBs in the league. And it's only going to go up. Right? Now, when I heard that, Dak Prescott could get paid $60 million a year, I just think it's a little ridiculous. Because I don't think any quarterback is worth that kind of money. And especially, a guy that's not the top quarterback at his position. But that's just what the market is. And, he got his money, and he deserves to get paid. But, now, first year, with that money, he got hurt. And same thing with some of the other guys. Tua, Trevor Lawrence. They did not finish the year playing. Jordan Love, was able to come back after he suffered an injury at the beginning of the year. But, some would say he regressed. Now, I think he's still going to be a good quarterback. He was good last year. And this was only his second full year starting. Let's see what year three brings. But, yeah, it just, if you were a franchise that put a heavy investment into your quarterback, after the first year, you're not happy. Now, when you extend it to the top 7, you got Jared Goff and Justin Herbert. Yeah, Justin Herbert was not good in the playoff game against the Texans. But he put together a solid year. He had 3 interceptions the whole year. He pretty much stayed relatively healthy. He was a little banged up earlier in the season, but, he got healthier, and he looked better as the season went on. And, if it wasn't for Justin Herbert, Chargers aren't getting into the playoffs. They also had a very good defense this year, and Jim Harbaugh is the coach. But, if you don't have Justin Herbert, you're not making the playoffs. You're just not. So, we want to see better results next year, and I think we will. Because now it's another year with Harbaugh putting the roster in his image. And, you add more offensive talent to that team, they're going to be dangerous. I do believe that. And then for Jared Goff, we'll see what happens on Saturday. And Jared Goff put together another solid year. But you know what? Out of the quarterbacks, Joe Burrow's been to a Super Bowl. But when you look at Dak Prescott, Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, Tua, Justin Herbert, in this top 7, Jared Goff, he's been to a Super Bowl. He's been to 2 NFC Championship games, one last year. And now they've won 15 games. He's a big reason why, the Lions have been successful in recent years. And it's amazing his story. And we've talked about it several times on the show. The Rams, they essentially gave up on him. Went to the Lions, and it looked like he was going to be a backup the rest of his career. Like he was going to be a bridge guy, and then the Lions were going to move off of him at some point. But he has become their franchise quarterback, and he's loved there. And he's played really well, and we'll see if the Lions can get it done this year. But he is a big reason why the Lions are where they're at right now. Along with just, the culture that Dan Campbell has built over there. And, they got a chance to rewrite the wrong from last year because they came up short. Can they break through and get to the Super Bowl? We're going to find out. They got to win 2 more games, and then they're there. But, yeah, just was not the prettiest year for some of these quarterbacks, though. It's just amazing how, the top 5, 4 out of the 5 missed the playoffs. And, if you combine all 5 of them, no playoff wins. They got the same amount of playoff wins as me and you from this year. Now, can they bounce back? Well, I think if Dak stays healthy, Cowboys bring in the right head coach. The Cowboys, they still have a lot of talent on this team. And, I think you need to improve the running game and, maybe get another weapon. And I think offensively they'll be good. And I think Dak, he usually puts up solid numbers in the regular season. I think he'll have a good year next year. Joe Burrow, we'll see what happens with T. Higgins, but, you still got Jamar Chase. Burrow's going to be good next year. We'll see what the Packers do in the offseason. We talked about what they should do. Offense, got to address that. The Dolphins will be interesting because Tyreek Hill, might want out. So are they going to have him next year? Can Tua stay healthy? We saw last year when Tua stayed healthy. Well, I guess now 2 years ago. When Tua stayed healthy, he led the league in passing yards. Now, a lot of that had to do with Tyreek Hill and, what he was able to do. But put together a solid year. So, we'll see if Tua could bounce back and stay on the field. Trevor Lawrence, he's been a disappointment. He's been a disappointment. Last couple of years, he's been banged up. Jaguars are going to be looking for a new head coach. And we'll see, who they end up bringing in. You got a stud at wide receiver in Brian Thomas Jr. Last year, Tank Bigsby, he showed you something. I don't know, are they going to move off of Travis Etienne? Wait and see on that. You still got Evan Ingram at tight end. Christian Kirk, it was banged up last year. So it's kind of weird saying last year, even though we're still in the same season, but we're now into the new year. But I don't know, because that's what analysts start doing. They start saying, well, he was good last year. Well, technically, yeah, it was last year, but I don't know. Yeah, Trevor Lawrence is the one. Like, at least when you look at the top five, Tua last year, 2 years ago, led the league in passing yards. I mean, the playoffs was a disappointment. He's got to make a difference in the playoffs. Jordan Love, won a playoff game last year. Was impressive down the stretch. Was good this year, but, again, a little bit of regression. Joe Burrow, even in the year he missed the playoffs, he had one of his best seasons. And Dak Prescott, he got hurt, but the Cowboys pretty much make the playoffs every year. Trevor Lawrence did make the playoffs a couple years ago, but 2 years ago he had the collapse, and last year again banged up, and the team just was not good. These guys have, in one way or another, have made their mark. I feel like Trevor Lawrence has not made his mark yet, other than 2 years ago. But he does have a playoff win. So I don't know. We got to see. I think it's just because the last couple of years he's been banged up. Tua at least has put together a healthy season more recently than Trevor Lawrence when you're combining the last 2 years. But, next year's a big year for some of these guys, and hopefully, they can deliver. But I just thought it was just something interesting to bring up that, the top 5 highest paid QBs in terms of, per year, no playoff wins. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think, though, about this. Who do you think has the best chance to bounce back? I know Joe Burrow had a great year, but, in terms of, Dak Prescott, the Dak Prescotts, the Trevor Lawrences, the Tuas, the Jordan Loves, who has the best chance to bounce back next year? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. So we are going to take our next break, and then when we come back, we'll talk about the Jets and their search for a new head coach. Where are we at currently in that process? So make sure to stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.